Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's happened again. We've got another record, another RLCS record for the longest overtime, and it's mad to think that now the 4 longest overtimes in RLCS history have all come from the spring split after a couple of years of going unbeaten. But this is it. This is another EU RLCS game. Rix GG against BS Plus competition. Now you might not know a lot about these two teams, but I'm sure some of the names on the field will be familiar to you guys. Rix GG are one of the teams who are definitely in the running to make it in, scrape it into that top 6 in the back door to try and make the RLCSX championships, but they didn't have the best results recently, and unfortunately in the most recent RLCS competition for Europe just this last weekend, star player Cash was banned in Rocket League, so he wasn't able to play. Rumor has it that he typed in the game chat, pineapple belongs on pizza. So that's an instant ban from the Rocket League game client, and if you're banned from the Rocket League game, you can't play in RLCS events because you need to play on your main account for RLCS events. So unfortunate for Rix GG. I don't think they were going to make it into the championship, so either way. But they of course wanted to finish off their season with a good result. Now that being said, I have to give some props to FairJame, who is a substitute player who came in for this team and actually got them some results that they were not expecting. They did make it into day 2. Well, actually, yeah, it is called day 2 of the competition. So the competition starts with day 0, not day 1. So they probably expected, playing with a substitute, that they're going to go out in the group stage, but they made it through, so that's already something. And it's a little bit of experience for FairJame. Maybe we'll see more of him in the future. But the main player I want to talk about today is a Chronic. So we're on a Chronic's POV. He's a player for BS Plus competition. This team previously went by the name Godsmilla's team, because when they came together, the 3 of them, Godsmilla, Freaky, and a Chronic, they couldn't think of a team name, so I think Godsmilla said, why don't we just call it Godsmilla's team? Or I think maybe he wrote it in. I can't remember what the exact setting was. I think he wrote it down and they didn't protest it, so that's what they were. But they were picked up by the org BS Plus competition. It's an absolute mouthful of an org name, but yeah, congrats to them on getting an org for this last event. Well, the last regional event of the EU RLCS calendar, I should say. And although it was previously called Godsmilla's team, after seeing their first run in regional number 1 for this split, everybody was calling it a Chronic's team because he really did play at such an impressive level. And it's not the first time that we've seen this guy in Rocket League competition. I believe he played in a tournament with Flakes, or a few tournaments with Flakes last summer. So he's been around for a while. But he has only just, I think it was either recently or, right middle of the RLCS season, or right before it, that he turned 15. So now he's allowed to play in RLCSX competitions. And although these guys were never in the running for the end of year RLCSX championships, this is still a chance for these guys to prove themselves. For Godsmill and Freaky, it's a chance to prove that their careers are not over. Those guys, of course, have been in RLCS before, and they've been at that highest level before. They've competed, they've taken big wins, and yeah, they're not done. The Germans who just never quit, so full credit to them as well. But Godsmilla especially, I think Freaky tweeted yesterday, Godsmilla's been benched from 2 teams this season, and he still keeps on putting in results. Guild, of course, had him before, well, actually it was before they were Guild, I think. He was teaming with Tho and Nolly before they benched him for Scrub Killer. Then he joined Team Singularity. Well, actually, I think the team left Team Singularity and he stayed, and the new team joined him on Team Singularity. And then they benched him again for Scrub Killer. So Scrub Killer just seemed to be following Godsmilla around and taking his spot on whatever team he ended up on, but he just didn't give up. And they had a great result in the first regional event for the spring split. And they've proven in this event here, where this game was played, that was not a one-off. That was not a fluke. They were able to put up a brilliant run in the most recent event as well, nearly making the grand final. They were just 10 seconds away from making the grand final before Aether, that's Ixo, Yukio and Tox's team, equalized on them and then won the subsequent overtime. But anyway, back to Acronic, the player we're watching. He is a mechanical powerhouse. Incredible levels of confidence as well being displayed by this guy. I'm sure we're going to see some great plays throughout the series, but none more than this. Check that out for a pass on 0 seconds. And that is how this overtime began. So, of course, it had to be a 0-second equalizer, followed by an immense amount of time where no goals are scored, and both teams are just trying not to make any mistakes. But I'm serious when I say this. If you want to see some highlights, if you want to see some good goals from RLCS recently, if you haven't been able to follow with all of the events, just check out any games involving Acronic, because he's a joy to watch. There's lots of players on the come up right now in Europe and America who kind of fit this category. Just very clean, smooth mechanical ability. The kind of players you just want to be on their POV for a whole game, as we currently are, because they're just going to get all their recoveries right. Well, watch him get one wrong now that I've said that, but yeah, they're just really fun players to watch play the game. And I actually don't know if he is going to mess up a recovery in this game. I've not yet had a chance to check out this overtime, because I was casting RLCS this exact same event, or I was watching the A stream when this game happened. So in fact, I'm not even sure if this game was streamed, but I have been able to get a hold of the replays, which, by the way, since I know some of you will ask, where did you get this replay from? Can I get it somewhere? The answer is yes, you can get it somewhere. And that is to head over to Wikipedia and then go to the Rocket League section, find this tournament, EU RLCSX Regional 1 for the spring split, and then scroll to the bottom of the page. There will be a section called Replays, and that'll take you to all of the replays for that event. And every other RLCSX event, you can do the same thing. There's tons of events actually that Wikipedia upload the replays for. So that's the first place I would recommend you checking if you do want to see for yourself and take a closer look at your favorite players. But this is going to be a long overtime, so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more information about RLCS Season X. As I said just moments ago, if you've not had a chance to follow the whole season, that this is where we currently are. But I'll give you a couple more updates as well, just in case anyone is interested. So there are 2 events left for Europe. There's the European Major for the spring split, and then there's the end of season, I should say, championships. So those are the only 2 events left. All 9 regional events are done, and the other 2 majors have also already happened. So we expected, going into the last major of the year, the last major of the season, I should say, that there would still be a lot on the line to play for. That there is still a lot on the line in terms of prize money, but we expected that there would still be qualification for the RLCSX Championships on the line. As it turns out, that's not the case, because a whole host of upsets have happened in this regional event that we're currently watching. The event this game happened in, and a ton of top teams are already out of the conversation, namely Giants, and also Dignitas are another one that we're definitely expected to have a chance of making it into the championships. But also Endpoint, they were in the conversation, and Galaxy Racer. They obviously fell off a little bit after dropping EXO, but these are all teams that we expected to at least have a chance and to be a part of that last major event of the year, but they just didn't perform well enough throughout the spring split, and they're not going to be a part of that championship run. But obviously that means that the championship teams are already decided, and those 6 teams are Team BDS, unsurprisingly, Team Vitality, also unsurprisingly, Top Blokes, who have just snuck in despite losing in this regional pretty early as well. We've also got Solary, that's the formerly Oxygen esports roster, Astral Ferret and Chaussette, alongside Guild, who just won the recent EU regional event. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. And then finally, Team Queso, who won the event before this one. So a lot of surprises. But I think the main surprises for me are that Dignitas and Giants won't even be able to fight for their spots. I thought there would be 5 teams, maybe 6 teams fighting for those 3 spots, maybe something along those lines. They're already out. They just did not get enough points during the spring regionals to make it into the major. But yes, I said I would talk a bit more about Guild, and I will. Just briefly. Talk about Guild's recent win in the event that we're currently watching. You know, I'm sure some of you guys were, you know, going to check that out. I still encourage you to do so. It was an absolutely brilliant day for chaotic Rocket League and upsets, so definitely give it a look. But whereas all of these other teams were seemingly struggling, or lots of other teams at least, were struggling with their form, you know, BDS just put up their second event loss in a row. That's the first time in the RLCS season that they haven't, lost 2 events in a row. I mean, they've set a pretty high bar for themselves. It's not crazy, but to lose 2 events in a row. But for them, you know, it seems like it is. And Top Blokes, you know, they got eliminated early. Giants have completely disappeared, although they were definitely struggling before this regional as well. But yeah, in the midst of all that, Guild produced their best Rocket League yet. They looked cohesive. They had, you know, brilliant communication, solid plays in the solo plays and in the passing plays departments. So that's something really good to see, and I want to give some credit to Guild, not only for winning. You know, the results do speak for themselves, but also for the manner in which they did it and the setting in which they did it, with the cancelled, or the announcement coming out recently that the RLCS X season will not end with a LAN event, which to me comes as no surprise given the current global circumstances. Some players did struggle for motivation, and you know, it is understandable to be upset by that, but at the same time, this is a professional environment and the objective hasn't changed. The objective before that announcement was to win the Rocket League games, and it still is to win the Rocket League games. The same prize money's on the line for these guys, and realistically, some teams will be able to climb up and accept that challenge, Guild being one of them. Very wide open now. Oh, what a play there by Chronic, can't not mention that, as we just see him fall off the ceiling into a dunk. Those of you who did watch this event at the weekend will know that he pulled off one of the best goals of the entire event by doing something similar, where he lands on the ceiling, falls back down, or not just falls back down, it makes it sound like it's an accident. He flies back down and gets a crazy dunk on an unsuspecting opponent. You can never know exactly what Chronic's going to go for at any given time. But anyway, that's Europe, and Europe's all confirmed. Europe is already locked in. The major teams have been decided, and the final event of the year, the championships, those teams have also been decided. Now, in North America, I don't expect it to be quite as simple. The North American teams have been more consistent throughout the spring split. Well, the best teams in North America have been more consistent. So I do expect at least those top 7 to all make the major, and that will leave championship spots up for grabs, and you know, left open for fighting for all the way until that major takes place, which is in May. All the dates have been announced. Again, they're all on Wikipedia if you want to go check them out for yourself. Massive props to Wikipedia and all the guys over there for giving us all the updates that we need and all of the information that we need for the most complicated season of RLCS to date. But anyway, we are now 8 minutes and 22 seconds into this overtime. Not a lot of mistakes to play off. Both teams are keeping a good level of consistency. And well, I mean, it's not even a spoiler because you guys saw my recent video between BDS and Galaxy Racer where it was a 15-minute overtime. And now you know that that's been beaten, so you already know we've got a long way to go here. We've got an awful long way to go before we get to the end of this one. We've got plenty more topics that we can discuss. I do want to know what you guys think about the RLCS season as a whole. I know a lot of fans online were understandably disappointed to hear that there won't be a LAN this season, despite the fact that it was, like I said earlier, fairly obvious that that was going to be the case. And no, I didn't know behind the scenes information. I just read the news occasionally. And oh, what a shot by Ocelon. Cheeky double off the bar. Could have ended it right there. But yeah, what do you guys think about the season as a whole? Because there have been, you know, some people some pros, mistakenly in my opinion, saying that this season has become meaningless as a result of there not being a LAN. Whereas for me, and I can honestly and confidently tell you that I would say this regardless of whether or not I cast for RLCS or not. If I wasn't casting RLCS, or if I wasn't involved in Rocket League commentary in any way, shape or form, I can safely say that this has been the most impactful season, the most important season, and easily for me the most impressive season of Rocket League to date. The most prize money, by far the biggest number of events, by far the most content, more players, more teams, everything's scaled up, and it's been pulled off to a very, very high level. You know, in a world where suddenly LAN's studio broadcasts are no longer possible, I have to give credit to production teams. I have to give credit to Psyonix. I have to give all the credit to everyone who's just filled in that hole and filled in those gaps without any difficulty, and actually doing a better job than a lot of huge studio productions on television who are struggling in the midst of all this, whereas RLCS is thriving. It's never seen more viewers, never seen bigger numbers, and never had this much going on at once. So, you know, that's my opinion on it. And some people say that I only say this because I cast for them. I can 100% tell you that that is not the case. I would say the exact same thing regardless, because for me this is a very obviously difficult situation to be in with what's going on with COVID worldwide at the moment. In the UK where I'm from, the finish line is visible, you know, with the vaccine drive. And I know for a lot of you guys in America, it's a similar sort of thing. It looks like it's getting better, but in other countries and in other places, that's not the case. So it's absolutely nowhere near being done by the looks of things. And yeah, there's nothing to be gained from whining about these kind of things anyway, because it doesn't matter how upset you are. COVID's not going to go away just because you're having a tantrum. The weather's not going to change just because you want it to. It'll just continue to do its thing. So yeah, that's my whole take on it. There was a lot of discussion on Twitter and Reddit this weekend. A lot of people throwing shade around towards people and to things that really are not to blame, in my opinion. So I don't think anybody's to blame. I think the whole Rocket League community needs to come together at this time especially and continue to drive forwards. No reversing. Got to keep on advancing, progressing, because this has been, like I said before, by far the most progress has been made in an RLCS season. More casters have been involved through stuff like the grid than ever, by far. You know, European casters have been back on the main stream with Shogun back on the RLCS stream. I was integrated for the first time ever. Cole and Stumpy integrated for the first time ever. There have also been new North American casters getting involved. There's a weekly podcast now on the main channel. There's never been more happening in the world of RL esports. But it's very easy to forget that when you put the blinders on and just decide to get upset about something because the situation is not ideal. So yeah, hopefully now that there's been a bit longer to think about, you know, what's going on and to think about this recent announcement, I think people have calmed down and they've realized that, you know, this is still a huge opportunity. Players have still got the best chance to make a career out of gaming that they ever have. And there's never been a better time to try and become a Rocket League pro. So there's more money on the line, there's more events, and there's more consistency, more orgs, more of everything. So there really is no reason to complain, in my opinion. And yes, being upset is perfectly fine, but throwing a tantrum is not. And hopefully we're going to see positivity as we get to the end of the RLCS year for what has been an unbelievable year. Now back to the game at hand. We are now a minute away at this moment from beating the RLCS record for overtime length. And Chronic has been putting in work, early reads on every bounce, pre-flips as often as he can. These are things that are tricky to go up against. You know, flip resets, pre-flips, wall bounce reads, anything you can do that will either get a touch on the ball earlier than your opponents expect you to, or react to something before they can. That's what he's all about, and that's what all the mechanical players are about these days. But Rick's GG, you know, for a team playing with a substitute, I think they deserve the most praise for this. Godsmill and Freaky and Chronic are a new team, but Freecat, Mikeboy, and Ocelot are a newer team. They're the newest team, and Freecat to come into his first ever RLCS event, as far as I know, and to be thrown into the deep end here, yeah, seriously well played to him. They've had some really close calls, but still they hold on. And in a game where both teams are playing as well as this, I think it has been a very high level OT. One of the better super long OTs I've seen. It really does come down to who makes the first mistake or who makes the first clutch play. When you get into these huge back and forths where no one is going too crazy with their positioning, everybody's being a bit careful. That's what it's going to come down to. And nobody wants to be that guy who makes a mistake. I'd say it's worse to lose like that than it is. It's more of an emotional situation if you lose like that than it is if you win by making a huge play. But now approaching 16 minutes, absolutely smashing the record, and only a couple of minutes off. Oh my goodness, what a save! Mike Boyd Ocelot just keeping that one out. Yeah, the all-time record for RL competitive is that Vitality Dignitas game, which is over 18 minutes, so still a ways to go in order to catch up to that one. But I don't think these guys are thinking about that when this happens. Honestly, I'd love to know what exactly they're thinking. Maybe some of them are in the comments here. As Chronic gets a ceiling read wrong there. That's got his team in a bit of trouble. Mike Boy denied by Godsmiller. It's a nice follow-up as well by Freaky, but Ocelot's going to send it back into the middle. How long can they go on for? Chronic doesn't have a lot of boost, but he gets a lot of distance on his clear. Huge hit by him. Oh, look at this from Freecant, actually dribbling out of defense. Wanted to change the pace. Sick of all these hard hits. Mike Boy's not, as he invites Chronic into another one. And there he is again. Chronic thinking about dodging forward into a dunk after he lands on the ceiling with almost no boost. He does this quite a lot. I've only realized after his insane goal this weekend that this is something he does fairly often. But now we pass 17 minutes. How long can it go on for? Chronic finally gets 100 boost. Will he be able to make anything happen with it? Freecant solidly goal side on a 50-50. Deflects the ball to safety. We're well into the record now. Over 2 minutes longer than that BDS Galaxy Racer OT that happened as well. Freaky wants a Chronic to help him out in the middle of the field. Freecant keeps ball cam on. That's a huge save by him. And now Mike Boy's beating Godsmill. Can Freaky get there? No, he can't. That's it. That's game. 17:41. The longest overtime in RLCS history. And who knows, with how often the record keeps being broken recently, I wonder how long this one's going to stand. We, of course, had the record being beaten by BDS and... oh, I've forgotten who their opponents were. I think it was BDS Aether. And then in the same day, it was beaten again by BDS Galaxy Racer. And then the weekend after that, or an NA event soon after that, it was beaten by... no, it wasn't actually beaten, but there was another... could have been the record had it not been for BDS and Galaxy Racer. Played between G2 and I believe KCP. I do have a video on that one. Yeah, so close there for Freaky. Just couldn't rotate fast enough, and this is all it takes. Is one challenge being made in an ill-advised position. Godsmiller thought, he sees Freaky move into his left there, and he thinks, okay, if I challenge here and Mike Boy gets it past me, Freaky will have me covered. What he doesn't realize is that Freaky will not have him covered. He just doesn't have enough time. I mean, he hasn't slowed down here. He hasn't taken a slow route back. But yeah, just a small misplay there by Godsmiller. He should have faked this challenge because Freaky is not yet behind him. But anyway, guys, that is the end of the longest OT. I'll show you the scoreboard because I'm sure a lot of you want to see what it ended up being. Longest OT in RLCS history. Not the longest OT in competitive Rocket League. I believe it's second to that Dignitas Vitality series, which I do have a video on from a few years ago, a couple of years ago maybe. But yeah, ridiculous stats. Mike Boy with 11 saves, Freakout with 9 saves, Ocelot with 8 saves, all of them putting in work. And, since they were the team that were stuck in defense for most of the game, they have ended up with more score on the scoreboard. This is one of the reasons why score isn't everything in Rocket League, because I think saves actually give you more points than shots do. So if you're just a team sitting on your line making saves, the other team's shooting, you will start to accumulate more points than they do. Clears and centers, I think, still give the same, although I might be wrong on that. So that's the scoreboard. BS Plus competition had the better chances for sure. And Acronic, for me, played a great series overall. Great game, I should say, overall. Phenomenal tournament overall for him as well. And congratulations to BS Plus competition on making the major. If you want to see more of them, you will in the last major event for the EU RLCSX calendar. But that's all we got time for now. Appreciate you guys watching this super long overtime. I'm curious as to how long this record's going to stand. And enjoy the rest of the RLCSX season. You'll see me there, and I'll hopefully see you there for the remaining few weekends that we've got. It's been a marathon of a season. You're not going to want to miss the conclusion. Anyway, for now, guys, have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one.